So the first comic book that actually goes up for sale in this auction, because you can see they've got the lot numbers here. So these are all in order. You got 91023. So this is the 23rd item. And the 24th item is this Action Comics #1. So yes, it is a 0.5. It is missing the back cover. That's the note that is, here, I'll zoom in a little bit. That's the note that's up here. It's missing the back cover. It's got a lot of damage to it, but I mean, the main image with Superman there with the guy running away, throwing the car, all that, everything is there. You are missing the number, which that kind of stinks a little bit, that you don't have the #1 up there. But I still think that this is an incredible book. Now it's sitting at 192,000 right now. And I'm always going to quote with the buyer's premium. If I've had people ask about that a lot, like a lot of people get really hung up on that buyer's premium. It really doesn't matter. Like the final number that you're paying is with the buyer's premium, the number that's reported to GPA, to Go Collect, to Cover Price, all those places is the final number with the buyer's premium. That's the same as on Comic Connect, the same as on, I think Hakes does a buyer's premium, all those different places. It's the final number. And so that's what really matters. So if you're bidding, ignore the 160,000, ignore the actual bid number, and always pay attention to the number with the premium. Yeah. The Action one is pretty beat up. I agree, but I still think this book is going to go for 300,000. So let's take a look at the at GPA for this. So we've got Action Comics #1, 1938. And all right. So now let's look at what this book has gone for. I mean, we've got a 3.0 that went for 1.6 million and then nothing. I mean, you've got pages, you've got that kind of stuff, and you've got this like 1.5 sale from 2005 for $10,000, which I'm telling you right now, if that is real, like that looks like one of the best purchases of all time. But this is the type of thing, this is the type of book that is going to be really, really difficult to price. Now you could say, based on these numbers, this looks like it's at around 550,000 per point at a 3.0, around 500,000 per point at the 6.0, and then you've got this one here, this 8.5, that looks like it went, or no, that this one was, right? Yeah, 3.2 million for the 8.5. These numbers from 2021, I think are just, they're super low now. I think that these numbers are going to get massively eclipsed, but I don't think that it's necessarily going to just be like, you've got 500,000 per point. And so at 0.5 becomes 250,000. I think it's going to be a little bit more than that. And just the reason I think that is that I think it's going to be a lot of competition to get into this book. And so when you're getting into this book, there's, at the low end, even though this is multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars, there's going to be a lot of people that, and by a lot, I mean, I don't know, maybe 20, 30, 40 that are going to be bidding on this just to get a copy. And so I think 300,000 is the bare minimum for what this book goes for. I think maybe it could go for 350, something like that, but I would be surprised if it goes under 300 with this book. yeah, missing the #1 should knock 7,100 off. Yeah, so if anybody doesn't know what that's referring to, there was a sale like 2 years ago for just the #1 from an Action Comics, and yeah, it went for like $7,000. So it was. If you haven't seen that sale, Dave with Comic Book Investments, his channel, he talked about that in a video. I mean, like 2 years ago when that book sold. And it's a hilarious video. I'd recommend going and checking that out. Oh, the #1 sold. Oh yeah, they did. I didn't realize that they actually captured that here. Yeah, this was that Comic Connect sale. I bet they have a link to it then, so we could actually see it, because they always have. Yeah, there we go. So if you want to see this is that #1. That it's all it is the #1 in this gigantic slab, sold for $7,100, has this red dot on the back. And I think the funniest thing to me about this was that they gave this white pages. There's no pages. Like, how do you even give this white pages? It should have been, it's like they didn't have the ability to say something else. Like, they should have said something else there, because it is clearly not white pages. But yeah, I thought that was one of the funniest things I've seen, was that sale. Check about the Action Comics #1. Like I said, I think around 300, maybe 350. And in an auction setting, you never know. I mean, I've seen some really big numbers out of that when Mickey and Drew and I were doing that Comic Connect auction, when we were kind of commentating on it as everything was selling. We saw there's some big numbers, and especially when you've got a lot of competition for something. And I bet there's going to be a lot of competition for this. I think earlier everyone was asking, what's your Ryan estimate on the Punch 12? So I have thought about this one a little bit. So I can jump ahead. I can jump ahead a bit to the Punch 12. So here's Punch 12. So I'm not trying to push this book, because I picked up a copy recently. I haven't gotten it yet. It has not been shipped out yet or anything like that. But just trying to be open about that I do own a copy of Punch 12. Mine is much lower grade than this one, but currently sitting at 75,000. Now, my initial thought on this book when I looked at it when it first came up was that I thought this book might go for around 200,000. And let's take a look at the pricing for it. Now, it's one of those things where this is the top of census book. Top of census books can do all kinds of crazy stuff that you just don't expect. I mean, take a look at that Comic Connect auction. There were a few books in there that were top of census that just had some just crazy bidding going on with them. And so when you've got that, and that top of census book, yeah, I mean, it sold 5 years ago for 55,000, but I don't think it's going to be anywhere near that today. This has become just one of the marquee covers for the Golden Age. Like, this really is, like, when people talk about skull covers like this, it really is the skull cover for the Golden Age, and it's early. That's the other big deal. It's 1945. It is really early. And so now the one thing I noticed with this one that I think, again, might hurt it a little bit is that I don't know if it's tanning, but it's definitely like some yellowing to the cover. Like, this skull is typically whiter than this. It looks like there's some, I'm not going to call it dinginess or anything. It just looks like there's some yellowing to this cover. I mean, it's an 80-year-old book, but let's see if I can find another one. Because I think this 90,000 one was the Nick Cage copy. Yeah, so, I mean, let's take a look at this one versus this one. And so this is the 5.5, and you can see, like, that is a whiter, and this is Heritage, so it's going to be the same scanning and everything. And you can definitely see a difference. This is the one that's coming up. This is that one, the Nick Cage copy, I think. Yeah. And so that's something that could potentially hurt this book a little bit, is that its visual appeal isn't quite as high in terms of the brightness of the skull cover, but it is the highest graded copy. So it's going to have the cleanest edges, cleanest corners. There's no big creases or anything like that on this cover. And like mine is, beat to hell. So, that's what you're normally going to get with this comic. But when I was looking at this one, I was using something similar. I was trying to look at like what this book was selling for 5 years ago in other grades. So if we look at this 4.5, we look at 2013. Now, this was 2018, so you can't say that it would exactly have sold for this, but let's pretend in 2018 this was a $10,000 book. And so then it's gone up about 4x in that period of time. So if we, multiply this by 4, roughly, we get to $200,000. Then let's take a look at maybe some other grades, like a 1.5. So in this one we've got in 2018 was a $3,600 book. Again, here, that is 4x exactly. And so again, this book in that period of time seems to have gone up about 4-fold. And so that would put this at, that would put it at 220,000. But I think, you don't always know for sure. So I think a roughly 200,000 is around where I think this book could go. Again, I don't know how much, that color is going to impact it. But that's what I think. I mean, right now this book is sitting below the Nicolas Cage copy. I mean, there's no way this book is selling below what that one sold for. So I think 200,000 is a pretty reasonable estimate for this one.